Thank you so much for being a part of this canvas. We are starting officially. And I see Uncle John talking about NAS, and I am so sorry. My name is John Nkore. I deputize the General Secretary at the Uganda Advertisers Association, a group and an association that I am more than excited to be a part of because I work for an ad agency called Grindstone Limited, and we are more than glad to partner with UMS, the Uganda Marketers Association, to just talk about data-driven advertising. And today is going to be a great day because I know that the people on the call are very wise. And so the topic today, data-driven advertising, turning insights into impactful campaigns. I will introduce my panel, starting with Uncle Rogers Anguzu, who is, man, the guy has so many titles. Deep MCI, he will explain what those are. But he's a commercial manager of Crown Beverages, and he's a visionary, results-driven chartered marketer with over 15 years of rich marketing. Telecom, fintech, beverage manufacturing, media, oil and gas, health. What hasn't this guy done? Sales, communications, IT, I mean, the list goes on. And he has deep knowledge and understanding of social dynamic in the sub-Saharan Africa, having studied, lived, and worked in this region. And so that's Rogers Anguzu. His camera is on. So Rogers, you can wave at the people.
Good evening, listeners and viewers.
The next person I will introduce is Maria Katumba, who is from Jumia. She is the Chief Marketing Officer at Jumia, and Maria is experienced and passionate about marketing, and she's a marketing professional with over 5 years of experience in marketing and communications. She excels at marketing strategy, campaign integration, driving brand awareness, product performance, and content optimization. These are the things that we're going to be talking about advertising. So she comes with a wealth of knowledge, and she holds a BA in mass communication, public relations, advertising, and applied communications from Makerere University, and is currently pursuing a chartered course with CIM at Datamine. And Maria, you could turn on your camera and say hi.
Yeah, my camera is on, I believe. Hello, everyone. Very excited to be here with you today. Looking forward to the discussion.
Wonderful. The next is Nanzala. The other name I won't pronounce. She will help us on that. She's the Chief Growth Officer at Ipsos, Sub-Saharan Africa. Very intelligent lady in our interactions, and you will definitely enjoy her conversations. Nanzala is the Chief Growth Officer at Ipsos, and she has over 25 years of marketing and research experience and cuts across various sectors, including media, FMCG, financial services, and telecommunications. Initially, she was based in Kenya, and Nanzala worked in the East African region for over 8 years, and then moved on to South Africa for 17 years. And her expertise is understanding marketing, markets, market entry, segmentation studies, creative testing, innovation, brand health, tracking studies, media monitoring, and audience measurement. I feel like she holds a PhD. She will tell us if she holds a PhD in market research. And Nanzala, if you could just turn on your camera and say hi to the people on the call.
Hi, everyone. Really looking forward to the evening. If I had a PhD, you'd just be calling me doctor. There would be no other name.
Thank you. Robert Sebunya, last but not least, is from Stanbic Bank, and he works under personalization over there. Robert possesses an uncanny ability to distill complex data into transformative insights, driving performance marketing campaigns, and not only capture attention, but also catalyze recurring revenue across telecom, banking, FMCG, insurance, governments, pharma, NGOs, health, and energy sectors. Robert. If you could just wave to the people. Robert has worked from across the globe. My God, Uganda, Kenya, South Africa, Nigeria, UK, Canada, Rwanda, Ace, and beyond. So, Robert, if you could just say hi to the people.
Oh, I'm happy to be here. Thank you, John, for that introduction. Just to say my wife is in the room. First time I'm doing this in 4 months since we got wedded. So yeah, excited to be here. I'm a human being. I'm a petrolhead, just to put that in, and I don't stay in Nansana.
Those sofas in the background don't tell of Nansana, so we're glad to have you and your dear wife on the call. Thank you so much. So what we'll do, we'll start with the beginning. We are talking about data and how it relates to advertising. So the topic really is data-driven advertising, turning insights into impactful campaigns. And I'll start with you, Nanzala. What is data? What is good data? What is valid data, relevant data? Let's just tackle that, and then we'll get into what data can be used for advertising. Nanzala, over to you.
Thank you very much for that question. I think when you think about the question, what is data? For someone who's worked with data for so long, we almost have no answer. But I'll tell you what data is. Data is facts and statistics that are collected for analysis. But in our context, we look at data as facts and statistics collected for analysis, but that inform decisions. So it informs decisions right through the campaign development process, the campaign development and deployment. But I would say that in terms of data, I mean, what is good data? In today's age, I think we'll say that winning brands and campaigns that actually work and brands that work actually are those that are very consumer or customer centric. Because from R&D work that has been done, we've seen that a lot of what drives success is understanding the context of our consumer customer. And that means we have to collect information to understand their context and arrange that information in a way that can be used in a useful way. And so data is really that information. And again, the data is there all manner of data sources, the survey-based data that is collected based, that incidental data, like, you're online, and therefore there's data that's generated in all manner of forms. The important thing is what is the source of the data, like, and how it is, how you organize it to answer the question that you're asking, whether it is in the campaign development or in testing. So that is really what data is. I mean, in the discussions that we are having today, and I know we are talking about campaigns, but I would almost say, let's take one little step back and say, is your product right? Is it right for the market? Is your packaging right? Is your claim right? So all these things, it would be good to test them with the customers or the consumers to collect that information so that you make the right decision, all the way to testing your creative to get that data, to planning and post-campaign evaluation. John?
Thank you so much. And I like that you talk about not just the person who is advertising, but also the person who is manufacturing, creating, that they also need data before they actually create the product. Data is important. Thank you so much. Just to single out advertising, what data can be used for advertising? Is it all data, like you have mentioned, or there's particular data and data sources that we can actually enjoy while engaging into advertising?
So for advertising specifically, I would say there's 3 data sources or data points that are quite important. I think when you're doing the creative, it's important to test. Before you lift the cameras, before you spend any money, do early stage testing, because that will save you from having, I mean, you've seen campaigns where the message didn't land because actually it was too complicated, or, the message that we are trying to land doesn't resonate, or the way we landed it doesn't work. But to save us all that, it's really important to do campaign testing. And we are really advocates of early stage campaign testing. Then there is media planning so that you do not have wastage. All campaigns are targeted to specific segments of the population. And I keep joking and saying, don't say it is targeted at the youth 18 to 24. There are different types of youth in there. So you need to really know which segment specifically. And that's where the audience research becomes really important, because then you can, with the use of audience research, then you can really do solid media planning that has a real return. There will always be wastage. It will never be perfect, but at least you know that the target that you're going after will be reached. The other third point is doing campaign evaluation. And I normally say that, you know, when you're doing a campaign, you've got all good intention, but then, and everything is okay. But when you put your campaign out, there's a couple of things happen. One, there are competitors as well. So there could be a competitor in place. Maybe you need to up a little bit of what you're doing. When the campaign is running, there are things that happen. It could be your wastage in terms of putting more advertising out, spending more than you need, because you've already, it's a rate of returning, it becomes quite, there's a point at which it's too much. So, you're not going to get any more value by continuing to put advertising. You need to catch that point. There's a third point, which is called wear out. So have you seen an advert and you're just tired of seeing it? Like you've got it, you've got the message, you don't want to see it anymore. Wear out is a point you need to catch, because that you're spending more, the people you're advertising to don't want to see it, and it just kills the advertising. But again, post-campaign evaluation is good so that you can learn and reapply for your next and sharpen. So those are, I think, are the real main data points.
I think it was last week that I got into a conversation with a client and they were saying, I want to see my advert on TV, and we're explaining where out and they didn't get it. And I'm glad that you have pointed that out. Thanks so much, Nanzala. Let me just bring in Rogers. And Rogers, you'll just be explaining to us how data-driven advertising has influenced your commercial strategy, because this is the thing that you enjoy on a daily. Rogers.
Okay, thank you, John. For me, data, I would say, forms the backbone or the lifeline of marketing. Without data, we'll just be shooting in the blind. So my commercial strategies from a context of data-driven advertising, the data-driven advertising has been able to influence my marketing plans, how I come up with the GTM elements, right from the point of creatives. How do I come up with whatever poems I'm going to communicate out there? I test these with customers. Then the choices of the GTM elements I'm going to use. When it comes to advertising, the media elements, radio, TV, digital, name it, all this is influenced by the data I've been able to harvest, which ones will reach the target segments that I want to reach, which ones will deliver for me better than what. So all that has been able to be influenced by the data-driven advertising. But like Nanzala said, if I step out a little bit and I go even deeper, for me, data starts way before when I start to do my STP, my segmentation of which market segment I'm going to are available for me to play in. And then which ones am I going to target? All this, I go with data. I look for data. Then later on, of course, it then comes to influence my commercial strategy. The commercial strategy also must be informed by which segment will be commercially viable, more economical to play in, and all that. And this all is influenced by data. Then my data also helps me influence the market approach. That's my route to market. Where am I going to play? Am I going to play in the modern trade or the traditional trade? Am I playing in the hypers and petromats and horecas and wherever? All this is informed by the data I've been able to harvest based on the segment that I'm going for. So data for me is a very, very, like a game changer in the whole of marketing. You go wrong on data, then you just headed to Kutomera, like we say in Uganda.
Thank you. I'm sure you have an example, an example of data insights that have impacted market penetration. I'm sure you could have an example to share.
Okay, where I work, we frequently check our products, right? We do quarterly brand salience checks, and we look at salience from attributes like awareness, awareness of the brands, love or affinity for the brands, how much how worth is the brand to the consumers, trials, usage of the brand's preference, and all this. So I've had a situation not too long ago when I had a brand that was doing very well on awareness. It had affinity right up there, and the consumers felt it was worth spending their money. But they had tried it before the trial was up, but the usage was down, so we needed to dig deeper. Fortunately, we got help from Ipsos, Nanzala's company, and we got a team of frequent users, non-frequent users, and we put teams together. We moved around the country just to check, why is it that everything else is right and frequency of usage is not high? And we got good answers, great answers, and put together a campaign, tested it with the consumers. We rolled it out, and I can assure you, we have good results coming out of it. The campaign is ongoing. Already, from the time we've run, I can see very good results. So that's where, for me, I say data it starts with one set of data from looking at the salience features. Then you dig deeper into face-to-face discussions, focus group discussions, and you try and dig deeper and understand specifically why is this the way it is, and we're happy where it's headed.
Oh yeah, thank you so much, Rogers, for that. And I know that you work for a big company, so you definitely must have data that is like everyday data. So it's not like you wait for like a month, then data comes in. You wait for another 2 months or a season or a quarter. So thanks so much for sharing those. We're going to get into just discussing traditional and current trends. And we'll be just asking Maria. But if you're on the call and you have a question burning, kindly drop it in the chat, and we'll have an opportunity to answer those questions one by one. If you have a question directed to a panelist, then they will be able to discuss it. If it's a general question, then any of the 4 panelists can jump in. Maria, tell me, how does performance marketing differ from traditional methods?
Thank you very much, John, for that question. So when we look at traditional marketing methods versus performance marketing, it is quite interesting because we live in an age now, like my previous panelists have said, where we have a lot of data. So when we look at the traditional methods, these are conventional and they've been in existence for a very long time. I think since before I was born. You see companies using traditional methods like televisions, print, radio, catalogs, to really create brand awareness and to reach out to their customers So they're quite traditional in the fact that they've been really around and their household. But when it comes to performance marketing, we now see data taking a very central point in the different marketing campaigns, because what performance marketing is that as a company, you are focusing on results-driven methods to run your campaigns. I'll give you an example. With Jumia, we are an e-commerce business, so we run our business majorly online. And it is very important that with all the data that we have, we are able to maximize our return on investment and utilize our marketing budgets really well by focusing on those advertising methods that will drive results. I'll go further ahead to give an example that if I wanted to reach to you, John, and target you to advertise, we are celebrating 12 years, by the way. So we're having our Jumia anniversary campaign. We want to let you know about it. We want to let you know about the different offers that we have. We will be able to, through performance marketing, have a precise targeting to you because we have data that has enabled us to understand your user behavior. Therefore, we can spend that money knowing that we are going to get a good return on investment. We know that you will be enticed by the particular product we've targeted you with to buy, hence leading you, converting you into a customer for Jumia. So when we do look at the two methods, I think the biggest difference relies on the use of data to really drive the decisions that are being made for the different marketing campaigns. Thank you, John.
Thank you. And when you talked about selling to me, I was wondering about data security, because then you're going to infringe on my rights. I don't know what you have, how you got it. So we will discuss data security.
Yes.
But let's talk about measurement. Are you able to measure the impact, and how do you measure the impact of performance marketing campaigns? First of all, can you measure? Because when the client then asks for the measurement, are we able to actually bring it out? And then how do you do that?
Yes. Yes, to answer you, you're actually able to measure the impact. Like Roger said, if you with data, you need to know what you want to achieve, right? Because you're collecting all sorts of data that inform you on very many different things. You need to be very clear on what it is you want to use the data to help you achieve. So as a company, as a business, we have different goals. The goal of my business could be to simply generate leads for another company that's looking to acquire more customers. My goal could be, for example, to drive conversion. I really want to acquire more customers for the business. So to be able to measure the impact of your performance marketing, you really need to be clear on what that goal is that you want. Now, once you have it, so let's say, yes, I want to generate leads for you, John, to sell maybe insurance. That means the goal or the objective of your campaign is lead generation. And that means that when I deploy performance marketing, I will be focusing on different metrics that will enable me to track the success of that campaign. For example, I want to see that if I do run an ad on social media targeting the clients that I feel would be a good target for your business, I will make sure that I'm tracking how many of those people that are coming to look at that ad are registering. I could attach a form to it, right? I attach a form where people are filling in their names, and as a result, if I'm able to say that every day I have 10 people that have registered to as people interested in the product that I'm advertising, then I can measure and know that the impact. I can measure and know that, yeah, my campaign is working, or it's not. Then another important thing to consider here would be attaching very different metrics. So like I've said, depending on the nature of the campaign, you could be tracking the conversion, you could be tracking how much traffic is going to the website. For Jumia, for example, we are really interested in making sure that we have good traffic that is going to our website every day. And that means it is important for me to track the click-through rate of all the ads that I'm running, how many people are clicking, and as a result, going to the website. Yeah, so once I have this data, the other beautiful thing is that we live in, again, an age where technology has advanced so much. They've developed so many tools for the marketing space. There's a term called MarTech that talks about marketing technology. So you're looking at different analytics tools that you can embed within, your platforms, business intelligence tools. There are very popular ones like Power BI that helps you really analyze this data. You can look at the trends week over week. How many customers am I acquiring every week? You can do a comparison year over year. Am I growing versus last year? And social media manager tools, Facebook ad manager. I mean, they're endless today. So once you embed those, then it makes it very easy for you to compile this data, analyze it, and most importantly, optimize. So measuring the performance is useless, basically, if I can use that word, is useless if you cannot optimize it. And that's the beauty of performance marketing. It's real time. You're able to look and say, oh, I'm really spending a lot of money on this ad and it's really not converting the way I want it to. And you're able to really make quick changes and turn that performance around. And like Nanzala said, again, important to always gather that customer feedback to look at how, everything you've put in place, if you really think your campaign is performing, how do the customers feel about it, so that your performance marketing also remains really customer centric, and thus can help you drive the growth for the business. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much. Very technical over there. Thank you so much for your wisdom. Now, let's talk about the practicality of it. And Robert, you come in here to discuss the practicality of how data can actually be used. And I know that you're into technology, marketing technology. And let's talk to the media buyers who are on the call. How do you use data for media planning and buying? Robert.
Well, that's a very good point. Where do I start? I think, launching a campaign without data is like, going to a football pitch and there's no ball there, right? Or for the ladies, imagine reading the Kardashians as a novel and not watching them. So you've got to ask yourself, what are you trying to watch out for? So when it comes to data, you're looking at things like the demographic data. What's that composition like? The geographical composition of, if you look at my brother, from Pepsi, what does that look like? The psychographics, what are the attitudes of the customers and interests that are buying your data? Now, while you're doing that, you also want to pay attention to media consumption habits of the country you're buying for, or of the brands you're working on. And then while you're watching all of that, you can't forget the most important piece, which is the competitor data. What is your competitor doing? Are you looking at that really well now? With you've said I'm marketing technologists. The other part we look at is, of course, the predictive data, and I'll explain how we get to that without getting technical. And then the real-time data. Now, the real-time data is, as your campaign is running, it's releasing, it's emitting certain details about it. So now, to get back to your question about the planning for the media, the first thing you need to know is, one, data is going to allow you to do your budget allocations. So where are you spending what? What percentage are you spending where? It's not just an order from above that, hey, spend 90% on radio and 10% on digital. That used to be the case, but that has ceased to be. What you're going to look at once you've done your budget allocations, you look at feasibility of you spending that budget. That's why I talked about predictive. So how much of your budget can you be able to spend, let's say per day, per week, or per month? You'll find a lot of people for the first time. I know the Ugandan market used to suffer from this. A media buyer is given a budget, especially online, and then they fail to spend it because they don't know how much they need to spend for that duration. So that's where it comes from. You have to have indicative costs that you use to buy media against. So what do I mean? You need to know that, okay, for the Ugandan audience, it costs us about 0.3 cents of a dollar to about 2 cents of a dollar for 1,000 people to see your ad. Now, if you don't know that, you're not going to have the basis on which you can plan a campaign. So you'll have a budget, but you don't know how much you'll have spent by a certain time. The next thing you need to look at is, of course, the frequency, which is the frequency capping. I think one of the, must have been Zala who talked about it. How often are people seeing your ad? Are they seeing it over and over again? Is that intentional? But can you tell who is seeing it over and over again? So being able to optimize and sort of plan for that, to say that one customer is not seeing your ad 35 times, or is not seeing your ad 8 times in one day, if that's not intentional, because in your plan, you say, I want to have a reach of 1 million customers, but this one guy is seeing your ad 15 times, meaning that you will not be able to have 1 million people seeing your ads. And the other is, and the panelists have really brought it out well, which is audience identification and segmentation. Is with digital media, you're able to pre-segment your audiences even before you run the ads, because there's enough historical data about them online, and very important for you to plan for it. Now, the last one there, without bombarding you with too much, is what we call performance measurement and attribution. So while you're running a campaign, are you able to see how it's performing? And are you able to, on the fly, attribute where that traffic has come from? A lot of us, when we're buying media, that's the biggest challenge, is you don't know where your growth is coming from. You are running the campaign and you're not sure where your actual growth is coming from. So that's why I talked about the attribution piece. You've got to be able to measure it from the beginning. Even if it's any channel that you're running with, you should be able to measure where the traffic is coming from. Because if you don't, you're not able to measure, you're not able to grow that space, or you're not able to cut off the wastage that you might have when you're running campaigns.
Thanks. That was deep and technical, and I'm glad that that media buyers are on the call and they are monitoring this conversation. Interesting to actually hear that there's different facets of media buying and even marketing, that you can actually put money in a particular space for a particular client. So thank you so much. And so if you have a question, please drop it in the chat. I'm sure you have so many bombarding you. Drop them in the chat. We'll be very glad to answer them as we go on. Robert, let's talk about the different media channels. How do you integrate different media channels for a balanced, cohesive campaign?
Thank you very much for that. I think the first thing you need to do is do the brilliant basics right. Forget about the complex stuff. Do the brilliant basics right. So one, are your assets optimized for the channel that you want to run them on? And I'll give you an example. A lot of the time, again, I've been in the space for a while, you'll see a client trying to run a TVC in its entirety, and that's what they want to run online. Like the way it is how they want to run it online. So online, they're coming to a channel where people give feedback about it, people comment about it, people call out people they are seeing in there. So, and then you find now the biggest baller there is you find that they also forget to put call to actions. Like, I've watched the video, what's the end frame telling me? On TV, you can get away with that, but someone is watching and you're forgetting that. The second thing that I see people tend to miss, so they're not able to integrate the channels, is we don't have the now what. Like media to me feels like it should be a continuation of, I've seen this, now what should I do next? I feel that is missing. So we've got to make sure that all our channels are in an interplay. You find a client, sometimes, we could launch, let me just call myself a client. You launch a campaign and while you've launched the campaign, you actually don't have a website ready, or the website collateral is not yet ready, or the guy working on the website has not yet put up the form that a customer is supposed to fill and follow up, with the submission. The other thing that I feel we need to do better, and I'm really speaking to the brilliant basics, like the basics that need to be done the right way. Yeah, so again, channels not talking to each other, even if it's radio. If you look at, for example, if you look at the trends, for example, you look at a radio like Galaxy FM, you look at NRJ Radio. These are radios that are audiovisual now. Even Next Radio, I don't know if there are sponsors today, but yeah, Next Radio. You look at guys like that, you are giving them a mission, and yet a guy like that would be needed to give even the actual product that you have, so they can experience, you're selling whiskey, you're selling a beer, it's a night show. They can actually experience your product on air, show the actual experience instead of you giving them a mission to read, hey, something of that sort. So we've got to think about channels and how we can cohesively integrate them with each other so that people can be able to pick up from one step to another. I think that's really missing a lot in our campaigns. The other thing that I feel that we need to do is to make sure that we look at the journeys end to end that a customer will walk when they see your ad. Like, just reimagine it like you're a customer and try to live through it. It could be as simple as being gorilla and calling your call center and see if they were prepared for this campaign. Trust me, a lot of the times you will be shocked by what you find. Good product sold well, agency has done their part, marketing has almost done their part, but then the internal stakeholder hasn't really been done. So you've got to look at the entire journey end to end, look at all the friction points, look at the places where you're failing, and then be ready to work them out before you actually roll it out to the customers. If you did treat these channels in silos, or if you do treat these channels without looking at the trends of those channels, even the traditional channels, there's a chance that you might miss out on this customer, because customers have completely evolved from what we used to think about them years ago. We have changed as a customer, so you've got also to change how you run your campaigns, or the way you buy your media, the way you launch your campaigns, and the way you resource for leads of your campaign. I think for me, that's something that I would like people to pay attention to. I don't want to talk about the complex stuff. I want us to do the basic stuff right. This is very common here. You could launch a campaign, and a client launches a campaign with a Facebook link, for example, as the landing page. And for Uganda, a couple of our customers have to access Facebook through a VPN. So someone clicks on a link for a campaign, and guess what? Where it's leading them? They're leading them to a non-existent page, because Facebook has been blocked in the country. So someone has to switch on a VPN to go and see your campaign. And we have a lot of such things. So I think we need to pay attention to the basics. Let's do the basics right. And then we will be able to land very great campaigns to our customers.
Thank you so much, Robert. People may need you as a consultant, so you may need to drop your email in the chat over there. But Maria, we're getting into the first segment of the questions, and there's just one here from Rommel. And he's saying, how does performance marketing affect long-term brand equity? And is there a balance between short-term and long-term ROIs? Maria?
Yes. Sorry, the question is from Rommel. Thank you for that interesting question, Rommel. Yes, so I think you've really asked the right question, because I being working at Jumia, it's something that we have. It's something that we are currently dealing with and really trying to understand, because performance marketing in the end will look at sometimes short-term goals, right? You're every day looking at the numbers and you're saying, oh, I think we really need to increase on the spend so that we can increase the reach for the ads that we have. And what that means is that we get a lot of feedback from different customers saying, you're sending me too many ads. You're or something else. When I go to my LinkedIn, I'm seeing the same ad. So because of that, John, can you still hear me?
I can hear you clearly.
Okay. So because of that, we sometimes face a challenge where the brand could suffer because that creates some negative sentiments from some of the users that end up uninstalling the app completely, maybe saying, you know, it's too much, I just need a break. You end up losing such customers. So it's very indeed important to create that balance. And the way that we've found that is best to approach this is to really integrate other methods while you carry out your performance marketing campaigns. You also need to integrate other channels that are not necessarily the same. Like you look at social media where you run content that is engaging and maybe around different things that are happening with the company that don't necessarily have to do with convert, but really creating awareness for the brand. With performance marketing campaigns, we've also found that you can run content that is educational. For example, how can you save money shopping with Jumia? How can you get the best maybe deals? How, you know, content that is not necessarily really focused on doing a conversion, but more on educating your customers about your brand. And in the long run, I think you're able to see some positive impact coming out from performance marketing campaigns for the brand equity. I could expound more, but I hope that answers a bit.
I'm sure Romel has picked a thing or two. If Romel, if you have another follow-up question, we'll be glad to read it in the chat for Maria to respond. Nanzala, let's talk about research and research findings. How can advertisers effectively utilize your research findings?
A very interesting question there, John. I think the big thing with research findings on how advertisers can utilize it is to incorporate research early, and to work with research right from the beginning, right from the get-go. Because if you embed, and again, it's just being maybe customer or consumer obsessed, just being customer centric. I think now there are so many products and the world is quite competitive. There are many alternatives. There's a lot of information. So for you to involve research early. And as I said earlier, it might be even from you might be wanting to make a claim like great tasting, but is that what is most important for the consumer or for the customer? You might be launching a product and maybe what you're pulling out as the USP is not the main thing, is not the most important. So really embedding quite early. But again, because of I'll just take this opportunity because, you know, we have a nice big group of marketers and advertisers. So I can't miss out really. I just have to talk about audience measurement and audience measurement in Uganda specifically. I think for the industry, it's extremely important to have a currency that works for the industry. And to have a currency that works, it means that we all have to, it would be, and now I'm now talking about the audience research, because when you've now created your campaign, you've tested it, your claim is right and so on, and you don't want that wastage. You need audience research that is valuable. I think it was Robert who talked about the costs per thousand. You know, for you to be able to say, this is my cost per thousand, and for the discussions, in fact, between advertisers and media owners to become simpler. It is easy when you have a currency in place. So we've done quite a bit of work, I think, with UMS, with your organizations, and alongside others, PROW, UCC, with NAB, with UMOA. We've set up what we've called the NAMS technical research team. And what we've done is that we have now agreed on a methodology for audience research. We have agreed that it would be important to do an establishment survey. The establishment survey is to understand the consumer. understand them fully, from product usage, lifestyle, psychographics, demographics, everything, so that also people can do segmentation according to their sector. You know, financial services would be different from FMCG, alcoholic beverages would be different from, you know, soaps and things, but to be able to do their own segmentation, to be able to really understand the customer and their media consumption habits. Because of the proliferation of media, there's a whole new situation, because we've got so many options other than the 300 and something radio stations and almost 80 or something TV stations. We've got a lot going on digital media. And you know, because the last establishment survey was like in 2019, I see numbers, you know, is it 30%? Is it 40%? What is the penetration of digital and who is actually there? So anyway, we do an establishment survey and we do the trackers. But to do that, because it is important for the entire industry, we would need that the entire industry comes in to do that funding, but also that we stabilize it's just, I keep saying it's like having the Uganda shilling. You can't have several Uganda shillings. You have to have like one. And I think it's really important that the industry comes together in getting this done and you know, and getting the audience measurement right, the establishment survey, and getting the audience measurement done so that we have a solid currency that we can deal with. But again, it's a process that will take quite long. It will take, you know, if we did the establishment survey, we'd have that available like in end of August. If we did the trackers, we'd start that from October, but to build to a huge sample of 36,000, that will take us a year, because we need to build to that sample to be able to really give every media house an opportunity to have audience. But anyway, I had to say that just to put it out there, but it's important to have media planning. And then of course, engage us as you're finishing the campaign and for the relearning process. But it is just engaging right from the beginning all to the end, all the way to the end, and for learning and reapplying.
Okay, thank you so much, Stella, that you had to chip in that. Let's talk about trends and emerging trends. Yeah, what emerging trends are in data analytics and how they're shaping advertising?
So I think there's a lot of with the advent of what, like, for example, Maria has been talking about, there's real-time data that is available, especially from the digital platforms. But even from mainstream media, radio, and so on, there's a lot of data that would be available in terms of viewership and readership. But if I was to give, for example, from digital platforms, we have data, for example, showing that on digital platforms, the advertising needs to be, I just had someone talk about wanting to take your TVC and put it straight into the digital platform. And it's like, don't do that. Why? Because now there's a lot of data that says the viewership will be 6 to 8 seconds. So it means in 6 to 8 seconds, you need to have delivered your message. It might be viewed, no audio. So can you make sure that the moving pictures are able to deliver the message without audio? And so on and so forth. So I think this type of data actually informs, you know, is a new trend, and is building into how even you test the creative for digital platforms. What you take into account when you're testing that creative and doing that creative for digital platforms, for example. The other thing is the big question of attention. And it's very interesting. Globally, the media had gone to the level where TV and radio and print and digital platforms were being measured separately. To our benefit here on the continent, we had kept those, I mean, except South Africa where it has gone separate as well. We've kept those together because of funding. But actually globally now, cross-media is coming back because of the question of attention. And the fact that people are multi-screened, people are watching different things at different times. And the question is, how do you transition? How do you put your creative out there so that it's very impactful? Maybe you will put a TVC out, and then you will have something similar on a billboard, but in the digital platforms, you know, same, but, you know, with a shorter message or whatever. But whatever it is, the cross-media planning and the cross-media thinking is coming back because of the question of attention. And again, because of the question of attention, there is a lot more work now that is being done about need states. So what need is the customer or consumer trying to fulfill when they're consuming that media? Because then that is going to give you an idea of what advertising you can put on that media. Because if I'm listening to music, for example, that is just in the background, it's just to create ambience, but I'm not really actively listening to it, as opposed to it is in front of me and I'm listening to it actively. There's a difference between those two, and it means there's a difference in terms of the impact of the campaign. So understanding the need states of the consumption of different media then also gives an idea of how the impactful the campaign would be. So there's quite a bit going on that. There's questions about things like prime time. And I always tell this story about the work we've done in Asia about putting cameras in households just to see how the media consumption happens. And prime time is like 100%, everybody's watching TV at 7 o'clock and so on. It sounds like everybody's watching it, but what are they doing? Homework is going on, food is going on. There's a lot going on at that time. And the attention is not at the level as 9:30, 10 p.m. When guys have relaxed, all this is done, and what is their attention? So again, there's a lot of work going on there in terms of media moments and knowing the point at which someone really does have attention. It's all a question of attention that is happening. That is all the things. But I think with a lot of data available, it's creating quite a bit of opportunity. I think on out of home, and this is a big space where even here in Uganda, we've not been able to crack it in terms of audience measurement. There's hope because there's a lot of technology now in terms of being able to, once you've got all the assets, you can actually measure the traffic. You can do a travel survey to measure who is in that traffic, and you can see opportunity to see. Because again, for out of home, because it's not, unlike all other media where you do something to consume it, you switch on the TV or you go online, or out of home is sort of incidental, it happens to you. So you cannot measure it by asking consumers, do you normally look at out of home? Do you enjoy viewing it? I mean, you can ask those questions. So you have to measure that using another way. And I think now globally, there's been a lot of tech that has come in with being able to measure that.
Thank you so much, Nanzala. And I like the chat I like the chat room where we're talking about AI and other emerging technologies that we can use. And Robert, you will take this question on AI, so prepare for that, because AI is such a huge deal in collecting data nowadays. And someone actually is mentioning ethics now. It will be a good conversation when the question is asked. So Robert, please prepare for that, to just speak into technology. But Rogers, let me turn to you. You're a chartered marketer. So let's discuss your commercial functions and what challenges do you face in turning data insights into actionable campaigns across these various commercial functions.
Thank you, John. Thank you. I think one of the biggest challenges that I've experienced in turning data insights into actionable campaigns is the level of appreciation of data in this country. Ugandans don't, the level of appreciation of data still calls for some improvement. You find data is pointing you into some direction and you can see the insights and it's very clear that you have to go this way, but someone tells you that, my gut feeling is this, or this is how we used to do it, this is how it has to be, this is how I was. So that appreciation, I still think we need to drum it. We need to get all marketers and all the people in the value chains of getting these campaigns up to appreciate the data, how data is pointing us, where it's pointing, what we need to be doing. Then data as well is all around us, but another challenge I face is collection and availability of this of the data, which can be actioned into campaigns. I mean, look at TV station, the digital TV platforms like StarTimes, DSTV, Zuku, all these have user data. You can go in there, dig and see who is watching what, at what time are they watching, much as you might not get rich insights like Nanzala's media consumption surveys would give you, but they would give you good pointers for a start. All this data is there, but not many people go out and collect, and it's not readily available to people. For us who deal in consumer goods, the supermarket should be able to give us, they have checkout counters where consumers are picking these products. They are always buying. You can tell what time your products are bought. What was it bought with? I mean, if you buy a bottle of soda, did you buy it with bread? Did you buy it with, at what time was it? So all these data points are there, but not many people are collecting, and it's not available and things like that. The next, I find challenges also in analysis or analysts. There are not many people like Robert who would look at data. Data is all this, it's there and it's a lot. Now you need many more people like Robert who can look through and start to see patterns to inform the campaigns and directions we have to take with this. So those are some of the challenges you come across, and many marketers still need to hone that skill to make sure we're not just regurgitating campaigns. We don't think, okay, my last campaign, this was the GTM, and my next campaign, this is what I'm going to do. It needs to be informed by something. It needs to be, we need to do the analysis or get help with the analysis. Then we need to do a campaign that is for that situation. It needs to be contextualized. So those are some of the challenges I've witnessed over the period of time.
Thanks so much, Rogers. And this might also be a challenge. Short-term sales vis-a-vis long-term branding building. This also could be a huge challenge. But how do you balance this? Short-term sales, the boss is telling you we need money, sell, sell, sell. How do you balance that with the long-term brand need of building through data-driven advertising?
That is the hardest that exists in the sales and marketing world. They're pushing, the finance guys are pushing you, we need our money back, we need return on investment, and they want to see the numbers. Then, in the marketing, if you don't build equity for this brand, you're doomed next year. For me, it comes down to a balance. You need to look at both as very important. Both of them are very important. You need to have these sales to make sure you have revenue to pay the ads that you put online, digital, the TV stations you run your ads on, the agencies that are going to do the activations and all that. You need the money to pay for that. However, you also need a strong brand that has a strong equity, that is going to be here tomorrow, that is going to be able to, bring on products and they would sell. So it comes down to clear objectives. When you set yourself out to do a campaign, you need to have objectives. So like I shared in the beginning, your data points you in a certain direction. For example, I gave you the example that we did for one of the brands that I deal with, where awareness was good, trial was okay, but frequency of use was down. So there I knew that I needed, I don't need to spend a lot of my time on the building the equity or the awareness and all those are okay. I just need to reinforce. I need to correct some things, but also drive the tactical side. So at that point, the data has pointed you in what you need to do. So you need to come up with objectives. How much are you going to spend your time focused on building the brand, and how much are you going to spend your time doing the tactical sales bit? You need to be clear on your objectives at the word go. Then you go on to execute and make sure you're delivering on both of those. Once you have clear objectives, you can then be able to reason with everyone, tell everyone, this is what I set myself out to do, and it's going to be, you're going to have returns. Secondly, I always encourage to many companies to have their brand managers held accountable for revenues of their brands as well. So that the brand manager is not just looking at, awareness for my brand is tick, trial is tick, preference is tick, affinity is tick, but the brand is not bringing any revenue. So you need to get your brand managers down to a level where they're interested in the revenue, the usage, the frequency of use, and all those of your brands, so that when they're doing their campaign plans or when they're thinking of campaigns for their brands, they have a mindset that is looking at, yes, I'm doing the brand, but I need to balance out the short-term elements as well. There, you would not be in a fight with your brand managers or with your finance guys. So that's how I look at it.
And yet maintain making money. Thanks so much, Rogers. A wise man you are.
Yes.
Let me talk to Maria about data play in optimizing your e-commerce marketing. What role does data play in optimizing your e-commerce marketing? Of course, you know that everyone is almost 50% of the business is online, 50% is on-site.
Online and on-site?
Yeah, in the shop.
Oh, okay. On our end, we consider that offline. But so yes, when it comes to e-commerce, I think data is the heart of the business. Because we rarely really physically interface with the customers, apart from at the point of delivery, we are using the data we have to inform all our marketing strategies, to inform our growth plans, to inform our, name it. I mean, we really are looking at data as it's a big deal, if I may say. So how does it influence? What role does it play? I'll give just a few quick examples. So when you look at some like the marketing strategies that we have, you rely on the data to do the customer segmentation. So to understand our customers, our customer behavior, who is our customer, how old are they? We know that as a business, we are looking at an age group. We have a particular age group that we are targeting. If we say we're looking at the 18 to 45-year-olds, how that data will allow us to identify who those users are on our platform. It will enable us to personalize experiences for them based off their shopping behavior, what they spend their time looking at on the website. So we are able to really build a very good customer experience as well, as a result. So which in turn plays to inform the growth of the business. When you look on the commercial side, we have topics like pricing strategies. How do we determine that the price of this product should be X during a month like June, where it's back to school, versus a month like December, where we know that the people are on holiday, they're spending more money, they're looking to buy more items to share with their families. So these strategies, we're able to create pricing strategies that are relevant, that are competitive with our offline market, and that are fair really to our customer. We are able to do things around demand forecasting. We know that within the next 2 months, we need to really stock up more on Sting or because we sense that shout outs to you, Rogers. We sense that there are going to be a lot of events around the youth that, so we are in turn able to forecast and know that let's reach out to our suppliers and stock up more of this product versus fashion products. Maybe it's a season. So this data, we really use it to inform everything we do, to inform how we our ad campaigns, how much are we spending on the ads that we are pushing out there, how we are allocating our budgets. For example, in marketing, are we allocating 50% to performance marketing and maybe 30% to offline? Why? Do we see a bigger return on investment when we spend it on performance marketing versus traditional methods? So it's really a very important element. But like Roger said, it's still there's still a big battle between different departments, really appreciating how each one can use the data to achieve the set goals, because sometimes they're clashing, sometimes they're different, but it's really a wonderful thing. I mean, for me, when I think about data, I wonder what we were doing before it was there. Like, what were businesses? How did the people then manage really to drive performance and to drive businesses?
Holy Spirit. Anyway, this is a question that came in earlier. Thank you so much for that, Maria. This is a question that came...
Nanzala's hand is up. I don't know if she wants to comment.
Nanzala, go for it. Go for it.
Yes, I've been burning to comment on the question of between tactical, sales building versus equity building, brand building, and that debate. And I think, and I just wanted to say, the key is in the measurement. So when you have a brand health tracker, for example, you should be able to measure equity for the brand, and equity is not awareness, consideration, preference. It is actually must include usage. It must include the bottom line. It must include the numbers. So when you measure it that way, and if you measure it often enough, I mean, for FMCG, maybe it's a little bit more often, you would be able to see where the problem is. Is the problem, I normally say it kills the debate on whether the question is the sales team or the marketing team. If you look at that funnel and the conversion, you'd be able to see whether the issue is about whether you need to dial up your brand building, thematic sort of campaigns, reposition the brand, or it's about call to action and getting more sales. But I think it's the answer to that is really in measurement and measuring the right metric so that you actually can, because at the end of the day, all of it is useless if it doesn't hit the bottom line. So sales is the key. At the end of the day, you want your product out and you want your product to move. And all this is supposed to feed into that. I just wanted to add that to this whole conversation.
No, thank you. Thank you so much. And Maria, just one last one. How does Jumia ensure protection of our data, the consumer's data? Just before we move on, because this is a question that was lingering at the beginning of this conversation.
Yes.
You have my data. How do you ensure protection of it?
Yes. I think I would like to say with confidence that at Jumia, we are really the champions of data protection because, we are sort of a unicorn, in this space of really yes, that details that we have of the customers, of John, you know, where you live, what time we deliver to you. It's a lot of information. So we obviously have put in place a lot of measures to ensure that the customers' data is really protected. One being the fact that we really train all our staff on data protection. We continuously do trainings with the teams. In fact, every month I have an exam sitting on my email, you know, with a quick video to teach me about different aspects of data protection. How do I manage the customers' data that I have from the marketing end? And then I have to do that exam, submit it. I get I get scored. If I fail, I have to do it again. And this is company-wide, right up to the person that is handling the package at the last point of delivery to, you know, for me, which is really a good thing. Number two, we have in place a data protection officer whose job is to really make sure that we are in tune with the data protection laws of the country. We are in tune with you know, what's new, what has changed, how can we improve every day. And they're basically, this is their job. That's what they do. If we fail at it, you know, it would be a shame. And then we look at the regulations, right? There's a data privacy protection office with NITA, and we are registered, we are compliant, we do have a certificate because what that means is that they've checked religiously the systems that we have in place to protect this consumer data, and we have passed. But also, lastly, I know there's an aspect of transparency. People always want to know, how are you using my data? How are you? There was previously a conversation going on saying, you know, Safe Border is selling our data to Jumia, and then Jumia is doing the same, which is not the case, because we are very transparent. We do have a privacy notice, which we put up on the app and also the website under our terms and conditions. We do ask for your consent to use this data. So by virtue of the fact that you're downloading our app to order, but you know, Ugandans, we never read terms and conditions. When you buy a product, that's the first thing you throw away, right? And then you plug in and start using the product. But I hope that is a culture that will also change, because yeah, the era that we are getting into is really very very exposed. Like there's a lot of data being collected at every single point. So we really try to educate our customers as well on how they can find these policies, and they can read them. If indeed you don't like it, you don't agree, you always have an option to opt out. So if I think we're doing a good job, John. I don't know how you feel.
I don't know how I feel, because I hardly read those terms.
I knew it.
Well, I don't know if someone
I
has
knew
my
it.
contact, my hope, anyway. Thank you so much for reassuring us, at least.
Yeah.
Robert, let's talk about the elephant in the room, AI, and how it's contributing to advertising. Yeah. So what role does AI play in machine learning and in media planning, but also in advertising? Robert, are you in the room?
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I missed that. So the elephant in the room. It's not an elephant per se in the, at least in the programmatic advertising world where I sit, because AI has been here for the last 14 years, in the sense of we've been buying ads programmatically using machine learning and you know, unsupervised learning models, right? So it's not new in the space. I think what has become new is it becoming mainstream. Like the average Joe can access it, but also it has become an everyday plaything. So there are people wouldn't recommend it, who, for example, would plan their media campaign using AI or ChatGPT, like generative models. So that is there. So what I would say is, one, it has been existing. It has just become better because one, computational power that the computational cost has gone down, but also the computational power of platforms that do this, platforms like Scheme, platforms like Adform, platforms like Google themselves or Facebook, they now have higher capabilities that they didn't have before. So what you see now, we have better predictive analytics or forecasting of how your ad will perform. Now, what has become better is the everyday person can also access that because Facebook is making it readily available. Before, it was a preserve of us in that space. The other thing that I've seen that has happened is ease with budget optimizations. So before, you needed a media buyer who will sit there and knows what they're doing, right? To optimize, they've taken so many learnings on themselves that they're able to say, okay, this is how I plan for this ad. This is how I remove creatives or targeting types or target groups that are not performing well. You were doing that on the fly by editing, by editing directly the ad campaigns. Now, the platforms are able to deliver those in the back end for anyone who is trying to run an ad. So that's something that has really come out well. The way I've seen it play very well in terms of scale is the content personalization. So where someone is able to personalize an ad based on a user's preferences. Because remember, before they were doing predictive, which means that they had anticipated how you will do it. Now they're able to deliver an ad based on who you are, where you are. So if you look at things like, you can be able, if we have some time, I'll be able to talk about that in detail, actual creatives, for example, instead of delivering a creative for, let's say, I could take an example of the panelists, if I'm delivering an ad for Rogers, who is based somewhere along the Northern Bypass, I know where he is, so I'll deliver an ad that exactly looks like the location is in, the weather is in, the weather of his, the actual weather forecast, or the actual weather of his place. So, for example, given, let's say, Pepsi, so I would be able to deliver a Pepsi ad that speaks to daytime partying. Let me explain what that is. I'm able to deliver a Pepsi ad, for example, instead of the ad communicating the night, it's communicating the day at that very time because it's seeing it there. Instead of, if it's in the night, instead of me delivering models that are modeling and look like they're during the daytime, I'm delivering an ad for him. And this is not rocket science. This is something that we're already doing for some of the clients. At least I've done a bit of that for. We've done a bit of that of some for competition of his, which could be many, right? So it's something that we can pull off. The other is where I've seen the strengths come in is in the performance and optimization, which wasn't there before, like I mentioned. Instead of waiting for a campaign to spend a week for you to be able to know where to optimize, now you can be able to deliver that in microseconds. It's learning from many other ads that are either in your ad set or for people in a place for other ad buyers who are buying ads from a place close to you. Now, of course, I expected people to think about, the other bits of generative AI where, generating videos, generating content, but I feel like they haven't matured enough for scale at the moment. However, what has matured is the technology that is delivering ads from the ad platforms, like I mentioned, some of them. That technology has just matured because they've been already at it. They've now gotten better at doing it. In terms from a creative point of view, I think there's been a lot of growth as well in that space. I think it's something we can always talk about a bit later. I'll just stick to that. I think what has also come out that I'd forgotten to talk about is fraud detection. What that means is about $40 billion online is what is ad fraud. Like, you deliver an ad, but it's actually fraud. No one has seen it, or some Asian somewhere in a server farm in a corner somewhere have multiple phones and they're the ones looking at your ads. So what has happened now is the AI technology has gotten so mature that you can be able to determine what is fraud, rather what is human. Forget about the usual human piece where we are asked whether this is a car or a motorcycle, but the models have become a bit deeper in terms of predicting what is fraud based on so many other non-variable patterns that were not there before. So before, you were looking at the basics. I could share what the basics were. My ad is running well. No one is clicking in one place at the same time. No one is only clicking in the corner, because you can tell when a bot is buying ads, right? Or when a bot is viewing your ad. However, what now happens is both sides are getting smarter. People who are buying bots are getting smarter, and the people who are buying ads are getting smarter. So, however, what has been the biggest beneficiary is the fraud detection models for ads have become also slightly better. If you can look up for you who's plan for this in your media costs, if you can look up integral ad science and DigiVerify as well, a bit of those. There are two I would recommend when it comes to looking out for ad fraud, because they are really, 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 really on top of their game. So while this is happening, remember, the negative side of AI is also really growing almost faster than the part where we're using it for fruitful and productive gain. So you've got to pay attention to that space. That's what I would comment regarding the AI space.
Thank you so much. And Rommel has added something called Ad Verify, which is also, I think, very, very important. What we're going to do is we're going to get into the question part. The questions that are in the chat is about 3 of those that I will touch on. If you will answer the questions, kindly, just 2 minutes, because we have about 8 minutes to close this conversation. And I'll start with Nanzala. There's a question here for you that says, what is the importance of campaign evaluation during campaign and post campaign? Also, do you have any comments on return path data? It would be nice to know. Nanzala.
Well, thank you. I think somewhere in the course of the evening, I talked about the value of the campaign evaluation during the campaign. Yeah. One, it's actually to just, even though you might have tested it you might just want to test that when it is already running, that it is landing your message. For example, you might have, let us say, a thematic campaign, brand building campaign, and you probably wanted to run it for, let's say, a month. I'm saying anything now. But in the process, as you test it, let's say if you test the campaign as it's going, especially with a consumer survey, you might find that you might need to add more time to actually land the message. You might cut it off before the message lands. It's actually just to ensure there's no wastage, or you don't cut it off before the message lands, or it doesn't wear out. So that is the importance of actually doing that. Mostly when you do post-campaign evaluation, so you finish the campaign, you've wrapped it up, most of the time at that point it's too late, but it is to learn and reapply for future. So both are quite valuable, but it's good to do that during the campaign. In terms of return path data, I think we're talking a lot about data that is available, and return path data from whether it is DSTV or StarTimes and so on is actually quite valuable data. But and we work with many of these media houses actually in our audience research, is that at the end of the day, they're very aware that they give you some information, but it's not normally, they know that it's not as accurate because that TV could be running, but nobody's watching. Or, it's been running the whole day, and, that sort of thing. So because of that, then we do a lot of work with them to validate that data. We actually do audience research for the same players and run that against what they have in terms of return path data. So I think it's valuable, but it's good to actually use survey-based audience research data.
Okay, thank you.
Answer the question.
Yes, you have. Yes, you have, definitely. There's someone here, Viola, I think, who is going on about how ads are increasing on consumerism. And, she talks about alcohol and how every ad now has alcohol, every movie has alcohol, everything you see on the TV has alcohol, every show, even if it's a sports show, it's sponsored by an alcohol company. And she's asking what is the role of media and how can this play out? And I'm glad that she has been answered. Good conversations about responsibility of admin and marketers in the chat. Thank you so much. Also, good conversations about mental health. Who do I ask about mental health? Rogers, come and answer about mental health. What responsibility does media have to play on mental health? This is a good conversation, because also UAA in this era, we would like to discuss mental health both on the consumers, but also the people that run these ads. Rogers, shortly about mental health.
I think it's a responsibility of the media houses, even the marketers, to make sure they are cognizant of mental health issues when they put out these ads. When they design their communication, send them out, they need to be sure that it's not going to affect people otherwise, because these same people are the consumers that you're targeting, remember? So if you're messing around with the mental condition of many people by the messages you deliver, then you're going to be losing many of your consumers. Tomorrow you will be selling to no one, you'll be speaking with no one. So it's a collective responsibility of marketers, the media outlets, the admin. Yeah, I saw Romel's response to that. I think there's a discussion going on to see that we do something about it. I mean, it's been one of those silent things that we all knew that it's our responsibility, but now I'm glad that the team is coming up to the forefront so that we can intentionally tackle it, address it, talk about it, and put guidelines on how we can take care of this.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Maria, if you could just come back on the call and just turn on your video. There's a relentless Linda asking about career. And she asks, what strategies or approaches do you recommend for a new entrant in the field of digital marketing to seize opportunities and establish a successful career path? I know that Jumia is excelling in digital marketing. It would be nice to just share your heart about career strategies. Are there opportunities in digital marketing, or influencers are taking over? It would be nice to share. But also, Linda, there's someone in the chat called Zaninka who you might need to be your mentor. She's very knowledgeable in digital marketing, and I think that she's a thought leader in that space. Maria, go for it. Your thoughts.
Yes. So Linda, I think I really like your question. And what I would say, in my view, is that, or at least what has helped me, has been to learn, like to really do a lot of research on the topic, because it is important to have a very strong foundation. So looking at some courses that you can do that can help you improve on the knowledge that you have. I think currently, like it was said, I am doing my CIM, and I think I've benefited a lot from doing that course. It has really expounded on my knowledge and my view of digital marketing. And that is because also digital marketing is always evolving. It's really, there's always something new that has been innovated, different books are being written every day on the discussion with the development of AI now, so it is important that you really keep learning, but also what you've done today is a very big step, joining different webinars and different societies where the conversations are being had. You join the space, you learn from the people that may be a bit ahead of you on the topic, so that you will pick something that you can then later go back and do some more research on. But I think also key is to really network. Try to, like John has advised, try to look up a mentor or someone that is a thought leader in the space that you can really learn from, you hold on to them, and they can teach you a lot. They can open doors for you because usually they do know where the jobs are in the space once you're ready. So I think there are very many things that you could do, but off the top of my mind, I think those are very key.
Yeah, so I'll get Linda a bit as well. So Linda, you want to do about 4 things, but the first things you want to find out is are you role fit for a digital role at an agency or at the client side? When you look at yourself, and you package yourself well to be role fit, would you fit in if they advertise the role? So once you're there, you look at what kind of roles they're advertising. For the next is you want to look at, are you industry fit? Like if a bank woke up and said, I want to take you on, are you the type of digital manager who will join a bank and you fit in? Like you just don't know digital alone, but you know the stuff. The other is, are you future fit? I mean, digital, we've done it for a while. I would say it's almost burning out and dying out. So people will stop to pay attention to it as the new kid on the block. So are you future fit? There's a lot of things that you have to do around that. I think that you need to do. Now, lastly, you need to have breadth and depth of knowledge. Because what makes a great digital marketer is someone who is almost good at everything, but when you pick out something, anything you pick up display, pick up search, pick up pragmatic, you're good at it. And please, one last advice, don't train yourself just for Uganda. It's the only space where if you walked out of this room, you would work at any entity world out there. The opportunities in Uganda are very small. The pay is also, sorry to say, I'll not say that. It's also very good. But yeah, just so think beyond borders when you're planning to get into the space. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I am delighted to have been the host of this wonderful conversation. The Canva was about data and how it reflects on advertising. Roger Zanguzu, thank you so much. Nanzala Mwara, thank you so much. Maria Katumba, thank you so much. And Robert Sebunya. This Canva has been a partnership between UAA and UMS. So I'll probably just call upon Rommel, who is the chairman of UAA, to just give your parting shots. Then UMS representative will share their thoughts. Rommel.
All right. Brilliant. Hongera sana ndugu zetu. You guys have done a brilliant, fantastic job. And I think listening in, we should have called this marketing research back to the basics. Yeah. Back to the basics. You guys have not spoken too much English as they talk in town usually is. I think it's been very, clear and well brought out. And I want to thank you very much. Please allow me to congratulate the new EXCO at UMS and the new EXCO at UAA. We're very privileged to work and put, a lot of this together. For my parting shots, I think, just a couple of highlights as we push into the future. We see that there's a lot of learning that we need to do, to bring the industry, to the same page. There are quite a number of shifts, as we have seen in the industry, and we need to embrace these and, discuss them and, help bring everyone on the same table. So we'll be reaching out, and John, I'm very glad that, you reached out with regard to this thought leadership engagement to make it happen so we could, do it jointly. Yes, there are other areas that we'll be looking at going into the future, areas on enforcement of joint discipline, areas on celebrating the efficiencies that we're delivering from a marketing and advertising perspective. Areas around advertising policies that we have talked about, and just streamlining research because of the role that it plays in giving us our credence and positioning us as professionals in our field. That's very critical. And then yes, just having fun as marketers and as advertisers, especially with regard to the mental health issues that were raised, ensuring that we have spaces where not only practitioners are able to, have safe spaces, but also ensuring that we have accountability when it comes to engaging the consumer. We have a role to play there, and we need to define, that role very clearly. So thank you very much, and I thank you very much for, sitting for 1.5 hours. To our audience that's been out there, thank you for remaining very attentive. For our panelists, you guys, it is coming to 8 o'clock and you look like you just had a lot of coffee. Yeah? I think Sting is working. The
Thank you.
Yeah, that must be Sting at work. So thank you very much. And yes, hope to see another one done very soon. Thank you very much. And over to you, John.
Thank you so much. A representative from UMS, John, sir. Go for it.
Thank you very much, John. Strange saying John from John. Anyways, thank you everyone for the attendance. It's been a great debate and a great talk from our panelists. I'm both a disciple and an apostle of data-driven marketing. So topics like this really, really excite me. I always say marketing without data is like use a quote I once had from Capital Gang, talking about shooting from the hip and aiming later. That is a typical marketer who creates campaigns and executes without the data. So it's always great when you have these discussions. A key thing that I think should be a follow-up discussion to this, both for UA and UMS, probably in the next discussion, is data. How do we probably have some sort of discussion on how we can safely share our data? Because a key problem that we have as marketers, we have our silos. Even within companies, you have marketers misaiming campaigns because there are silos within a company. You don't have the data that the guy at the ground has data on. So how do we as marketers safely share data so that we can all benefit from the collective? Might not be for someone within your industry. You might find the insights that you need is from someone totally different. But how do we have that sharing of data and safely, not infringing on our customers, as we've always been saying? So that's a discussion for another day, but parting short, something that we need to think about. So thank you very much. Over back to you, John.
Thank you so much,